things, and I won't spell the word out, but most of you are adults, you know that if you break the word up into 3 things, assume. Yes, you can follow what I'm saying there. That's what happens when we negatively interpret something. Well, negative interpretation is a way that we get into fighting. It's an unfair assumption about what our partner is thinking. What our spouse, what our child, what our parent is thinking. It's to do it in an unfair way. One more way that we don't fight well. Well, first off the passage. In your anger do not sin, so says the psalmist. When you're on your bed, search your hearts and be silent. The last way, withdraw. Some of us are good, Mr. Michael. You and I are good at the invalidation, as you said. I mean, we can argue our way. Some are good at withdrawing. Doesn't it make it interesting that sometimes those of us who, and I'm not saying for you guys, I'm just saying maybe for Sue and I, we tend to marry our opposites? I can come out really strong. Sue tends to withdraw. So what happens? I'm coming stronger. I'm invalidating. She's withdrawing. So what does that make me do? Come stronger. Not doing anybody any justice. Not doing our marriage justice. Not doing the family justice. When we withdraw, we're not doing the relationship justice. And I love this video, this little clip here. Okay, Jacob, go for it. Oh. Okay. See her eyebrows? Any of you guys ever get this look from your wife? You know, the eyebrows are going up and down like, oh man, I am totally withdrawing. And in other words, she's saying, do not enter. I am totally withdrawing, and I don't want to have anything to do with you right now. You may be coming at me strong, but I am going to back off, and I'm going to go into my little cubby hole and hide. Proverbs says, above all else, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. What we see here is four ways that we tend to fall into anger in ways which are unhealthy. But I think probably for most of us, we would say, yeah, those are things that we do. I see myself in one of those 4 ways. And remember, the Apostle Paul says, in your anger do not sin. He doesn't say you will never get angry with somebody else, but in your anger don't fall into sin with each other. I have 5 ideas of how to really fight fair, or how to have good problem solving, how to walk in a relationship with each other. The first one deals with, and I know that for some of you, some of this is old hat. Especially if some of you have done your marriages and have done that, we deal with this a lot in my office. First one is I statements, active listening. I statements, active listening. The reality is there is a huge difference between me telling Sue what I think or feel, honey, I feel this way, or I think this way, versus Sue, you should think this way. You should feel this way. Do you notice the difference there? Major difference. I statements gets into the idea that when we start to feel ourselves, and you got to take your emotional temperature, you know, we all take our temperature if we start to get sick. Well, we got to take our emotional temperature to see if we're rising and starting to get hot and upset with somebody. And if we are, we can do the I statement of, I feel this way, or I think this about what's going on within our relationship right now. But what do we too often do? You did this. You said that. You won't. You always. Any of you ever hear that or ever say that? You always do that. I don't always do that. Well, maybe 90% of the time I do. But you know, when we point the finger at each other and say, you always. Well, we're just invalidating each other. The I statement is the ability to say, this is how I feel about what's going on in our relationship at the time. It's taking ownership for it. The second part of the I statements is active listening. Active listening is the ability to say, I hear you saying. I hear you saying that when I cut you down, you don't feel very important in this relationship. I hear you saying when I escalate that you want to withdraw and that harms our relationship. I hear you saying, you follow me with that? I tell you, it's so cool when I got the couples in my office, and some of you, as I say, have gone through this with me. Some get it right away and they're able to understand it. Others, it's like I'm speaking Greek to them. They're like, how do we respond back or reflect back? And I say, it's in some respects parroting back, but it's trying to get at the emotions of what's going on within your heart, within the other person's heart. To see life through their spectacles, their eyeglasses, through their own eyes. So, I statements, active listening. I feel or I think that this is what's going on inside of me. Not what's going on inside you, but within yourself. And the other person responds, well, I hear you saying this is what's taking place. It's reflecting back. Proverbs 18 says, what a shame, what folly to give advice before listening to the facts. How many of us as dads don't tend to do that? I dealt with a commander out at the base a couple of months ago, and he was sharing with me that he's really trying hard. His kids are teenagers, and he's realized that at the base he's a boss, and he can bark orders. And he goes home, and he's a dad, and he can't bark orders anymore to his wife and kids. They've gotten older. They don't want to listen to the orders. What shame, what folly to give advice before listening to the facts. Okay, I statements, active listening are just simply, here's a few little ideas. A good way to talk, not to be used all the time. Neutralizes the danger signs of escalating, of invalidation, negative interpretation, and withdrawal. And it can help us inoculate. There's 10 or 15 of us going down to Haiti. Probably about February next year for the adult mission trip. We have to go get shots. We've got to get a bunch of shots to go on this mission trip so that we don't catch a disease. Doing I statements with each other is amazing because when I actually do them with people or with somebody in the family, it's amazing how it keeps life calmer and communication flows better. When I fail to do them, that's when things blow up. So, are you ready for a good, healthy fight which leads to resolutions or solutions? 5 steps. Number 1, we already talked about I statements, active listening. Number 2, we need to understand what we're actually arguing about. I got my first credit card when I was 18. I think I was 17, really, when I got my first credit card. Not very often in my life have I been late. We got married. This is what I'm saying that we were going to share. We got married, Sue and I did 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago, coming up in a few more weeks. I gave Sue a credit card. She's all happy. She never had one until about a year before we got married. I had talked her into getting a credit card, and she did. And maybe don't call Dave Ramsey on me on that one. But she got a credit card first time ever in her life, and was using it and very respectfully, very responsibly. We got married, and it tended to be my card came due the first of the month, and I was used to paying it and having the funds and paying it all off. And then her bill would come towards the 3rd week of the month, and I didn't make it clear what I was thinking within our relationship. And she was thinking, this is pretty nice. I have a credit card, and I'm going to take care of the family's needs, wants, and desires. Well, for almost 4 years, like clockwork, could I not say? I was getting upset. Because that credit card, I'd pay mine, and then a week or two